What's up guys, Americana back here with another video. The crypto market cannot reach its peak until XRP reaches maximum euphoria, period. That might sound strange at first, but once you understand why XRP is the ultimate gauge of retail sentiment, you'll understand why. So let's get into the video. Alright guys, hope you are doing good. Hope you guys survived last week's liquidations. We'll talk about that in other videos this week. But I want to talk about, market top is not in. I want to discuss some things, show some things. This has been one of my biggest, ideas, really this entire cycle, that XRP is going to be the biggest gauge of retail sentiment in the market. So hear me out, watch till the end of the video. Hopefully I can explain, hopefully you'll understand. All right, obviously we have XRP on chart here, but I want to talk a little bit about what is XRP, why is it in this weird situation where it's probably going to give us a lot of insight to when market euphoria is here, retail euphoria, things like that. In my opinion, XRP has one of the best utilities across any altcoin, or any coin for that matter. It's meant to send money fast, do it in a cheap way, and at the same time be decentralized, and then additionally the same things that every other layer one has with smart contracts and things like that now able to be deployed on XRP, some RWA narratives on the XRP ledger, things like that, right? So tons of utility, but at the same time, let's not ignore the fact that XRP is a little bit of a meme. XRP, in my opinion, is just as much meme coin as it is utility coin. And I feel like if you guys have been around crypto long enough, you will understand what I'm saying with that statement. The amount of shit that is out there on XRP when it comes to like what's out there on social media, the type of content centered around it, the type of people who are interested in XRP content, it's essentially a meme. XRP to $10,000, prophetic visions about XRP going to $10,000 and whatever have you, right? All of these crazy things. There's people who make thousands of dollars a month making videos about ISO tokens or about XRP to 10,000 or about flip the switch or about these random, not backed by any facts, like news articles about XRP being integrated into whatever. So I think there's a lot of people out there who their introduction to crypto or their understanding of crypto literally is XRP. If XRP is doing well, they will assume crypto is doing well with it, which has resulted, in my opinion, XRP being the biggest cult following in all of crypto. And I didn't mention this earlier, but to circle back to the utility, it's super easy to understand. What XRP is intended to be used for, what its end goal is extremely easy to understand, and it's extremely easy to understand that it's going to be valuable in the future. So there is a lot of hype around it. If we're diving into white papers on decentralized lending platforms with wrapped tokens and things like that, retail investors or people who are casually into crypto really don't understand that. They don't understand the ins and outs. They don't understand how one differs from the other, how, an Aave differs from some other lending platform, from another. So they don't really have a grasp of a lot of the more technical sides of crypto applications and things like that, but they understand move money fast, move money cheap. They fully understand that, right? Very easy utility and use case to digest. And again, it further drives that retail sentiment, that kind of meme mentality, that cult mentality. And it's what enables those XRP influencers to make crazy videos about XRP to 10,000 and this and that and the other. Okay. So now that we've set the stage, let's actually get into a chart. Let's actually look at some data. Let's actually break some things down. But I want you guys to have an understanding that one, XRP is one of the best utility coins out there. It's freaking amazing what it's being used for, simplicity of the problem that it's solving, but it's also one of the most complex problems at the same time, which is one of the most obvious use cases for crypto. They have massive partnerships. They're tied in politically. They have a ton of funding behind them, so that none of that is an issue when it comes to XRP and what it can do from a utility standpoint. While at the same time, like I've mentioned, cult mentality, meme coin, just as much. All right, so now that that is out of the way, let's actually dive into XRP's price, because we don't just want to say XRP has to top out for the crypto market to top out. It's kind of a crazy statement, because obviously most people would think about that inversely. They would be like, it's going to take the crypto market topping out for XRP to go find a top, to go crazy, to go to the $8 to $10 range that we expect. Let me move this over here. Sorry, guys. So yeah, we obviously need dynamics in the market that are advantageous for XRP reaching that price. So are we seeing anything structurally on XRP to suggest higher? I think we are, right? I've been following this fractal in here all throughout here. I was watching it to a T, and then back in, July kind of area, we got a little bit disconnected. I've been trying to figure out why, and as of late, just with this recent price action the last few months, I think I have figured out why. Obviously, nothing ever follows to a perfect T. I can't just come on here and grab this entire fractal and then throw it here and be like, awesome, XRP is going to go to $200. I have to adjust with the market. I have to look at things on the back end, such as dominances or just where we are within the cycle when it comes to timing and things like that. And we'll go through that in here, but I think a lot of stuff is pointing to XRP kind of shaping out this rally with similar structures that we've seen in the past. Again, I was looking at this fractal from 2017. A lot of people would be like, as we're in this phase where we're at now, would kind of point to down here. But I think that phase kind of already came in here, and you have to understand there's going to be diminishing returns, as well as, this is February of 17 to January of 18. So about a year, we've kind of already passed that. So following this exactly to a T is a little bit already out the window. So we just need to simply look at structures and then move from there. I'm not going to argue this was right here or anything like that, but I'm also not going to point to the fact that we're in like April or May of 17 on XRP when we have this part of the fractal here that has just timed out really, 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 really well. So now we kind of have to take another little step forward. I know most of you guys don't think that we could be somewhere up in here for XRP. Price is currently down here, but we are exhibiting these same structures. Again, there's diminishing returns from this stuff. So we have to look at the market from the perspective of, we have fib targets that get us out to the $8 to $10. So how can we get to that same $8 to $10 given the structure that we have? And if we take this fractal and we just put, it's not going to be exactly perfect, but if we put this top, and bring this down a little bit, where this tops out, as well as where we kind of found bottoms in this area, essentially we're just getting a giant bull flag to be built. And then you guys have seen my other videos. What do we see show up in here as the market goes for its top? Perfectly clear as day. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So obviously XRP is entering the final phases once we get out of this kind of bull flag situation that we have built here, and barring that we don't fall out of it and completely break the structure. But XRP is setting up for its final 5 waves. So if XRP is setting up for its final 5 waves, what can we expect from the rest of the market is obviously that some sort of top is going to be coming in when we are at this final 5th wave here. And again, this is going to be the cleanest gauge of retail sentiment. This is the classic steps of retail that you see in here is going to be happening. So let me show you how this will go down. You come in here, this is like your hope, disbelief. Okay, now the rally is really dead, guys. We got lucky with that exit pump. Then we have some, I forget exactly what they call it, early stages of euphoria. But obviously people still, hey, buy the dip, buy the dip, buy the dip. Look at all these dips, look at all these dips, look at all these dips that should have been bought. We're going to continue going higher. We go into the final 5th wave. This is Coinbase most downloaded app. This is Bitcoin hitting fib extensions. This is Ethereum hitting fib extensions. And then we get this dip here that all of retail piles into because they've been conditioned to buy the dips for the last 3 years, and they end up getting wrecked. So final 5 waves, right, showing up after we can get out of this zone more confluence for the fact that, again, the market is not going to top until XRP goes out for its top. If XRP is at $8 to $10 and we're getting pullbacks like we did last week in Bitcoin, and we're getting massive liquidations and getting bad, CPI prints or bad data, or the stock market's turning over or something like that, and XRP is at $8 to $10, I will be screaming for the top with the top, or from the top of my lungs. All right, so that should cover structurally what I'm seeing with XRP. I'm sorry guys, I just don't have the time to get into like the why behind we're pointing up here, besides the fact that Total 2 is on the verge of a breakout, final 5 waves from Total 2, Ethereum's on the verge of a breakout, final 5 waves. Structurally, we had all this similarities in here, and then obviously to account for some sort of diminishing returns, I'm not going to overly assume that we're still down in here just because price isn't as elevated right here. We saw this entire structure complete right here, and then we got out of it, so I'm going to assume we're here, and again setting up for those final 5 waves. So I said I wasn't going to explain it, but then I kind of went and explained it. But that's structurally what we're seeing on XRP. That's the reasoning behind why I think it's the most heavily retail facing coin in the market. So now let's cover kind of some back end stuff. So what was Bitcoin dominance doing when we were in this time for XRP last cycle? Obviously, this is a little bit different in 2017 because Bitcoin dominance was coming from up here. But what I do want to point to, and what we used for months, we've been using this about how Bitcoin dominance can be finding a top in the area that it has previously struggled to break through, or hold up in here and then retest here before breaking down, retest before breaking down, and retest before breaking down. So an area that Bitcoin dominance has historically struggled with, and then a time when we entered and then came out of it was when XRP was going for that final push. We've entered, we've come out of it. Is XRP going to go for the final push in this time? I likely think so, and I'm going to be looking for those 5 ways to show up, because I really do think XRP is going to give us great insight to the broader market, the sentiment of the broader market. If you're looking for retail euphoria, if you're looking for indication that things are getting crazy, right? Wait for your friends to be like, hey, should I buy XRP? Wait for your grandma to be like, hey, I saw that XRP coin on TV or something like that. I think it's super useful. It makes so much sense to me. Retail is already XRP is already super retail facing, like I've mentioned. When you get things beyond the normal kind of average person just consuming $10,000 XRP videos, when you get people hitting you up and things like that, likely going to be time for the market top. And that's a generalized statement, because when you have people hitting you up about the market in general, usually a pretty good top signal. But I think it's going to be XRP specifically that a lot of people pile into for given reasons. So similar dynamics showing up on Bitcoin, or at least good enough, even if we didn't have any of this data over here and we were just looking at a Bitcoin dominance, we could suspect some sort of move out if we're looking at other things suggesting a final 5 waves for XRP, right? So this 2017 move is just a little bit more confluence that we entered the zone, moved out of it, and that's when we kind of went for expansion on XRP. All right, so now chart's just naked right now, but we have XRP priced in Bitcoin. Go to the monthly chart, clearly clear as day, with some strength in here, building some sort of base for some sort of push higher. I don't know where this is going to top out at, here, right? I will be monitoring as that plays out. But again, Bitcoin dominance is signaling lower. That means XRP price in Bitcoin likely signaling higher. So these are kind of, one and the same when it comes to, data points. But for visuals, and for just a little bit more confluence, this should help you to see it that, hey, obviously building some sort of bull flag here for really over a year now, or about a year, since November of last year. And if we can get out of this zone, things are going to get crazy, not only in XRP, but a sign that things are getting crazy in the altcoin market in general. That's why I'm just so focused on XRP this cycle. I want to know what XRP is doing 24/7, because again, amazing gauge of retail sentiment, but also an amazing gauge of altcoin performance in general. Obviously, when XRP was doing really good back in November, that was peak, kind of alt season in a way, where things were just going crazy. outside of meme coins and outside of AI coins that we had seen earlier in the cycle. All right, at the same time, let's point to another chart. God, I love this chart so much. Ethereum dominance. So obviously Ethereum dominance going up means Ethereum is outperforming not only Bitcoin, but likely most other altcoins. What did we see last cycle, or not last cycle, sorry, earlier in the cycle in April? Obviously, we were looking at the Ethereum price and Bitcoin chart. You could have looked at this chart as well, finding some sort of macro support in here. And we were just screaming from the top of our lungs that you need to go long Ethereum. It worked out well. But now Ethereum is at a point, right? Ethereum's at all-time high. We've pointed to the fact that we need Ethereum to do well. We need Ethereum to get to all-time highs. We need Ethereum to break all-time highs to get Total 2 to break out. And when Total 2 breaks out, we're going to see the liquidity open across the broader market. I've said that messaging a million times by now. But what dynamic are we seeing show up here? That's super interesting with Ethereum on the verge of some sort of breakout, is that we could be finding some sort of resistance on Ethereum dominance. So what would that mean if I'm just going to draw Ethereum's chart over here? So this is Ethereum bear market, kind of bull market, April dip, and then we're right here, okay? And that's the breakout level. So what does this mean for Ethereum dominance? And then obviously higher, okay? If we get some sort of breakdown in Ethereum dominance while we're actually getting a breakout on Ethereum's price, this is signaling that exact same thing that I was talking about with this is your other altcoins taking off. This is your other majors taking off. This is your meme coins taking off. Things like that. If you have Bitcoin dominance rising or Bitcoin dominance falling, Ethereum dominance falling, but the prices of both of those rising, price of Bitcoin going up, Ethereum breaking out, i.e. the price going up, while this dynamic is taking place, your altcoins are absolutely melting faces, I promise. So another interesting dynamic to show up. I do have a dominance chart that aggregates Ethereum dominance and Bitcoin dominance. Just not going to show that right now, but I kind of want to keep it separate for this example. But again, another thing just showing up as we have structural similarities, as we have Bitcoin dominance rolling over, as we have XRP priced in Bitcoin looking to build some sort of foundation for higher. You also have the fact that a lot of this liquidity is likely not going to flow into Ethereum, okay? If you're bullish on Ethereum, it's at like $4,000 right now. If you want to call, $12 to $15,000 XRP, that's like, a 3x from here. A lot of altcoins are going to do a lot better than 3x. And why is that? Because we're seeing Ethereum dominance roll over from here. I told you in April, go ahead and buy Ethereum, okay? Now in here, I'm screaming, go ahead and buy lagging coins, exactly for this dynamic that we're seeing here. Bitcoin dominance rolling over, Ethereum dominance rolling over, while we're seeing appreciation in price in both of those coins means your other stuff is doing a lot better. While other stuff is doing a lot better, what are we going to be looking for? 5 waves on XRP to round out the cycle. And why can we look for 5 waves on XRP to round out the cycle? It's the heaviest retail facing coin. It's the most obvious narrative. It's easy to understand. It's cheap. It's available everywhere. It's a cult. People go crazy for it. All of these reasonings that I've showed is why you really, really, really want to focus on XRP. Even if you don't own any, you want to be very familiar with the structure that it's printing right now, because it's going to give you some insight to the cycle top. And then just to wrap it up in here, again, this is the same structures we're showing. And then this is Bitcoin over here. Obviously, Bitcoin is going to be kind of going out to hit some sort of extension as these targets get hit. Just another kind of dynamic to look for, that if this thing takes off from here, which is not likely, all of this stuff moves together, Bitcoin goes down or something like that, maybe this dynamic isn't fully true. Not that it's not true, it could still be true, and the market could be topping out and specific coins go on and hit their targets, but it wouldn't be the point. I would be making other points at that time for a top to be coming in if I saw a dynamic like that show up. So again, some sort of higher price in Bitcoin, some sort of appreciation or hitting fib extension targets while we're doing the 5 waves, just another layer of confluence. But I think I am going to wrap it up here. Let me bounce out for you guys. All right, that was a long video, but I hope you guys enjoyed that. Really, what I feel like is going to be super interesting. I've been mega bullish on XRP this entire cycle. Again, just because I could see that it was so retail facing. The utility is amazing. I'm basically buying a meme coin that also has one of the best utilities in the game. It was pretty obvious. I knew the the case was going to wrap up at some point in this 4-year cycle. That was going to be a bullish catalyst. So again, a lot of stuff shaping up, pointing to you need to focus on XRP. Don't care what your opinions are about it. I don't care if you like it, dislike it. I don't care if you think it's going to go to $5 or 10,000. You need to be watching it, because when that tops out, promise the rest of the market is topping out, right? Again, I know people normally say that inversely, right? XRP will top when, what am I trying to say? When the crypto market tops out. But, you know, maybe I'm just trying to skew it for the point of this video, or be like a little contrarian, or just make like a niche point. But I really do think it's to the point where you can actually say it inversely, that the cycle is not going to top until XRP does. I'm not saying XRP is driving all of this liquidity and demand and things like that, but with all of the things that we talked about, and what I believe your ability to look at XRP's price chart and predict a top is going to be, it's almost how I'm describing it, where, like I said, the cycle will not top until XRP does. So that's it for this video. We are going to wrap it up. 26 minutes on the recording. This is going to be a pain in the ass to edit, but hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Hopefully you found it useful. Hopefully what I'm saying is making sense. If you have any questions on this, just let me know in the comments. And yeah, plenty of other videos this week. Don't worry, we're going to talk about the liquidations. We're going to talk about the state of the market. Not sure when this is going to come out in relation to that, but that will be covered. So make sure you guys check out my other videos this week. Make sure you're subscribed. Comment if you have any questions. And I've never said it before, but notifications on would be super helpful. Appreciate that, guys. Again, hope you guys enjoyed. Catch you in the next one. Peace.